Imagine that EA Games, after seeing the success of Ace Combat 7, tries to make its own Ace Combat game to fit in or to compete in that genre, because seriously, there's not much competition with games similar to Ace Combat. There is a possibility that this is happening, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. There was a job opening post on the Ace Combat, and I want to give some of my thoughts on if EA does make an Ace Combat-ish game. I think that's actually a really good thing. So let's first start with the overall picture and the news. So a few days ago, someone posted a job opportunity for gamers in the same genre as Ace Combat on the Ace Combat subreddit. Link will be in the description if you want to check the original one. This job description, which you can read here on the screen, just like, hey, I'm a project manager at EA Games. We're making a game that is somewhat similar to Ace Combat. If you want to be a QA tester, check these links for the application, that kind of stuff. So I want to treat this as a, let's just assume that this is an actual guy from EA. I think the business background makes sense because, as I said, there's not much competition when it comes to Ace Combat. We had Hawks. The first one was good, the second one was bad, and it died a long time ago. The closest thing we have right now is Project Wingman, which hasn't even been released yet. So, from a business perspective, I see, okay, yeah, there's a space for an Ace Combat-ish game. What should we call? What would EA call an Ace Combat-ish game? Loot Box Combat. Loot Box Combat, yes, I think it's a very apt name for a game. Nobody would buy with that name, but let me call it Loot Box Combat. So let's assume EA makes Loot Box Combat. And actually, before they make Loot Box Combat, there's another possibility, okay? They put the links. I checked the postage of the job, and they ask a lot of experience when it comes to Star Wars Battlefront 2, Battlefield 1, and Battlefield 5. Here's the thing. These three games, they are mainly boots on the ground, shoot your enemies with rifles, that kind of stuff. But they also have an aerial combat component. So if you can, Star Wars, you can play with your spaceship, blow up spaceships. In Battlefield, you can also play with biplanes, regular fighter planes from World War II, that kind of stuff. So it makes sense. It makes sense that they could develop an Ace Combat game. But there's also the possibility that they just want QA testers to test the aircraft mechanics of another upcoming Battlefield game, for example. Okay, so there's that possibility, which is higher, I would say, than they are developing Loot Box Combat. But it's something to consider, right? So let's assume they are indeed developing Loot Box Combat, which I think is a really good idea, even though most of the posts mostly got shot down Reddit, because, you know, EA doesn't have that reputation, you know, of the consumers. It's a little bit hard with pretty much anybody to consider purchasing a game from EA. But suppose they do Loot Box Combat. There are two options, two scenarios. First, the game is a total failure. The second one's a decent game. I don't think it's gonna be better than Ace Combat. It's not possible. Even if EA thinks, okay, we have more people, we have more resources, we can make a game better than Ace Combat, they can make it faster, but I don't think better in terms of quality that they can do that. Now, in these two options where the game does well and the game it flops, I think either way, Ace Combat wins. If the game does really well, it brings more attention to other gamers because it's a big publisher. They'll be doing the marketing, right? They're big to the genre. So people will be more interested in these flight shooter games that are not really a simulator, because obviously it's not a DCS, but it's fun, it's accessible, people can play, and they already have that introduced because they played Battlefront 2, the Battlefield series, which has aircraft combat. Although you're not going to be able to jump out of the plane and shoot the RPG and destroy the plane and come back to the plane, as you've seen before, surely. So if the game does well, it would bring attention to the genre, and then people, okay, I like this game. What is a similar game to this? Oh, Ace Combat. Let me try Ace Combat. So Ace Combat wins. Now what if Loot Box Combat is a total disaster, mostly likely due to hyper monetization, micro and macro transactions. That would make sense. Then we can always, they still bring attention to the genre, and then we compare. We can go in the comments and make comparisons to Ace Combat, and people are like, okay, oh yeah, in Ace Combat you don't need to pay for your special weapon; it's included. And people are like, oh yeah, I like this kind of the look of this loot box combat game, but Ace Combat that game looks better. Let me check out that game. So I think in either way, that's good if they make this game. Assuming all this is true and they're working on the loot box combat game. EA, don't pick this name. I picked it first. Okay, it's registered. But I think it would be good. So don't be too harsh, I'd say, on the companies that want to make a game similar to Ace Combat, because competition is good. It brings more people to the genre. They find out about Ace Combat, then Project has somebody to compete and probably win with. So yeah, these are my that's my opinion on the EA possibly making loot box combat. Please don't demotivate them. And I know it's EA. I'm not defending EA. Seriously, please guys. I haven't bought any game with loot box or hyper microtransactions, that kind of stuff. So I'm not here to defend EA. I know EA is not the best place to work. And interestingly, they have the job openings in Austin, Texas, in Montreal, I think Seattle, and Vancouver. I live close to Vancouver, so I actually try to infiltrate EA, become a QA tester, and find out if they're making loot box combat, which would be a very Belkan thing to do. Fits very well with me. But if they are actually making loot box combat, I might make videos about it, so conflict of interest and not good. And well, I have other stuff to do as well. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this possible scenario, and I'll see you guys what you have to say in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.